Yes, God is man-made. Now let me clarify by answering my man's question right here. He was saying that if in the conversation the Bible and religion are man-made when you're talking about God, and if the Bible and religion are man-made, does that make God man-made? The true answer is yes and no. Yes, that the God of any book that is written by man is man-made. Because it is man who created the identity of that God. It is man who defined that God. It is man who claimed that this God is whatever it is. And it is man who claimed that this God inspired them to write this or came down and showed them or told them and all these sorts of things. It is completely the fabrication of a man's mind concerning any God that is of any of these books. And that's where the distinction comes. Now, does that invalidate the possibility of a God or what I would call the all, a intellectual mind, a creative mind, an infinite mind? Does that mean that that is not possible? Of course not. That could be possible. Maybe. Can't 100% guarantee it. Live my life as if it's possible only, but not that it is. Because if that was, it would not require my worship. So why do I even bother to concern myself overly with it if my worship is not required? That if my only goal is to understand the universe and how the universe functions and elevate my consciousness so that I can continue to grow in my consciousness, then what does it matter concerning the will of some deity? It wouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. But any God that has characteristics like humans, susceptible to jealousy, susceptible to anger, susceptible to love, susceptible to hate, susceptible to any emotion, well, it cannot be God. And in every book, these deities are susceptible to human emotions. Therefore, all these deities, all these religions are man made. And if they're man made, man created, man generated, then it is a man who is your God. I know people like to say that the government is God, but let's be real. It is the man that decided on the attributes, or the men. Let me change it and say the men who decided on the attributes and who have continued to decide on those attributes, and then who changes what other previous men said about those attributes. Those are the men that you're truly worshiping, because what you're worshiping, hold on for a second. What you are worshiping is the opinion of those men. All right. Now, everyone's opinion is merely a consolidation of all their lives' experiences for them to come to an understanding based on their observation of the universe. And it would be in particular to their own small universe during their time frame. And this is why they created a god of the storms, a god of fertility, a god of the earth, a god of the mountain, a god of the volcano, a god of the oceans, because from their perspective of observation and their experience, they created a god. And that became their opinion. And their opinion has become people's gods today. Muhammad's opinion became Allah. I will never give credit to the actual names in the Bible of those who wrote it, but Hezekiah's, but for those I do know, we will say it. Hezekiah's opinion became a major portion of the Old Testament. And then Josiah's opinion became a major part. And then Ezra's opinion became one of the final parts of what the Old Testament turned out to be. There are others that I could include, but those were your major hitters. So the Josephus ben Matthias, the Philo of Alexanders, the Herods in Judea, And then later on, your Eusebiuses and your Irenaeus and Justin Martyrs and Jerome's and Athanasius and King James and all these other people, the popes throughout time. It is their opinion based on their experience that has become the religion that people worship. Why are some of the things that we know are of low vibrational morality today in your Bible as your God saying that this is how you should be and what you should do, and these are the laws and commandments, and yet we find all those things to be illegal today? It is because that was the opinion of the state of morality of the people during that time frame. So of course, for them, it's perfectly fine, God ordained. But we know for us today, if you was writing a Bible, you was writing a religion, many of the commandments, laws, cultural procedures of the Old Testament and New Testament, you wouldn't have it in there. Think about it. You know why the Old Testament differs greatly from the New Testament? It's because the Old Testament lacks univocality, and the Old Testament is written during time frames of the Babylonians, the Persians, and then a little bit of the Greco-Romans, whereas, and mainly the Greeks. But the New Testament was written and influenced primarily by the Greco-Romans. Therefore, the different cultural norms identify themselves as you go through and read this book. This is why all the laws all the laws are what they are and contradict themselves routinely, because they're written with hundreds of years of distance between them, and major cultural changes had occurred. So, yes and no. Any God of any book that is named, as the Tao would say, let me leave you with that one, as the Tao would say, the moment that a God is named, it is no longer God. The moment that is put in a book, it is no longer God. The moment that you start to define it, it is no longer God. So if any of these religions or Bibles or your relationships identify and define and name a deity, it is no longer God. So you have a great day. And remember always, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.